The alarms began screaming across every monitoring station in the inner sanctum simultaneously. Guardian Prime Zelenoth materialized his form from pure energy, his ancient consciousness snapping to full alertness for the first time in 3,000 cycles. Something had breached the forbidden zone. That was impossible. The zone existed outside normal spacetime, wrapped in layers of reality distortion fields that had been perfected over 50 million years by the predecessor civilization. Nothing could enter. Nothing had entered, not in all the eons since the Guardians had been tasked with protecting what lay within. Until now. Report, Zelenoth commanded, his voice resonating through the quantum substrate that connected all Guardian consciousness. Single vessel, Guardian Prime, responded Sentinel Vormak, his usual calm shattered by confusion. It simply appeared. 3 light hours inside the outer boundary. No hyperspace signature, no dimensional rift, no quantum tunneling trace. It's just there, as if it had always been there. Zelenoth accessed the sensor data directly, bypassing the need for verbal communication. What he saw made his energy matrix fluctuate with disbelief. A ship primitive by Guardian standards, barely 500 meters in length, hung motionless in the absolute center of the Forbidden Zone. The location that should have been completely inaccessible to any being in the universe except the Guardians themselves. Species identification, he demanded. Unknown, Guardian Prime. The design doesn't match any civilization in our database of 67 million cataloged species, past or present. Zelenoth expanded his consciousness, reaching out to touch the intruder's hull with his senses. What he felt made him recoil. The ship wasn't just primitive, it was shockingly so. Chemical propulsion systems for maneuvering. Fusion reactors for power. It possessed faster-than-light capability, but the mechanism was crude, barely beyond threshold technology. And yet it was here, in a place that beings millions of years more advanced couldn't reach. Scan for life signs. Confirmed. Carbon-based biology. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Single occupant. Vormak paused. Guardian Prime, the database just returned a match. The species is human. From a planet called Earth in the Sol system, outer rim of the Milky Way galaxy. Humans? Zelenoth accessed the file. A species barely 200,000 years old. They'd achieved interstellar travel only 2 centuries ago. They were infants on the cosmic scale. This must be an error. No error, Guardian Prime. We have visual confirmation. The viewscreen materialized, showing the interior of the alien vessel. A single human sat in what appeared to be a command chair, surrounded by blinking displays and manual controls that seemed almost comically outdated. She was young, perhaps 30 standard years, with dark skin, close-cropped hair, and an expression of intense concentration. She wore a simple gray uniform with a patch that read Dr. Amara Okafor, UESA Research Division. As they watched, the human did something that sent waves of shock through the Guardian collective consciousness. She stood up, walked calmly to a viewport, and waved directly at their observation point. She could see them. Through observation methods that existed outside conventional spacetime, through sensors that operated on principles beyond mortal comprehension, she could see them. Establish communication, Zelenoth ordered, his ancient mind racing through possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. The channel opened. Dr. Okafor smiled warmly, as if she were greeting neighbors rather than beings of nearly infinite power who could erase her from existence with a thought. "Hello," she said in flawless Guardian standard language. "I was wondering when you'd call. I'm Dr. Amara Okafor, and before you ask, yes, I know where I am. Yes, I know this is the Forbidden Zone. And yes, I came here intentionally." Zelenoth manifested his form on her viewscreen, a choice he rarely made, as most species found his true appearance overwhelming. "Human, you have violated the most sacred prohibition in this galaxy. The Forbidden Zone has been sealed for 50 million years to protect all life from what lies within. How did you breach our defenses?" "I didn't breach them," Okafor replied, settling back into her chair. "I walked around them. Or through them. Or..." She paused, considering. Honestly, the terminology gets weird. See, about 70 years ago, humanity discovered something we call narrative physics. Narrative physics? Vormak interjected. That's not a recognized scientific field. Not in your framework, no, Okafor agreed. But here's the thing, we realized that the universe doesn't just follow physical laws. It follows patterns. Stories, if you will. Certain things happen because they're dramatically appropriate, because they complete symmetries, because the universe seems to have an aesthetic sense. Zelenotha's energy matrix pulsed with something approaching irritation. You're suggesting the universe operates on narrative causality? That's mysticism, not science. Is it? Okafor leaned forward. Tell me, Guardian Prime, and yes, I know your designation, in your 50 million years of observation, haven't you noticed patterns? How often do prophecies fulfill themselves? How frequently do impossible heroes appear exactly when they're needed? How many times have you seen conflicts resolved at the last possible moment? Silence. Because she was right. Every Guardian had observed these patterns. They dismissed them as statistical anomalies, confirmation bias, the mortal mind's tendency to see meaning in randomness. We didn't just observe the patterns, Okafor continued. We learned to use them. We built this ship, the protagonist, not to be powerful, but to be narratively significant. A lone explorer, seeking forbidden knowledge to save her species. That's a powerful story, Guardian. And stories have a way of going where they need to go. Save your species? Zelenoth demanded. From what? Okafor's expression grew serious. We detected something 6 months ago. A wave of emptiness spreading through higher dimensions. It's slow, but it's accelerating. Our best models suggest it will reach inhabited space in 2,000 years. It doesn't destroy matter or energy, it destroys meaning itself. Existence without purpose. Life without context. We call it the narrative collapse. The Guardians' collective consciousness reeled. They accessed their deepest sensors, the ones that monitored dimensional stability across the entire observable universe. They're subtle, but undeniable. A degradation in the fundamental structure that gave reality its coherence. You couldn't have detected this, Vormak protested. You lack the technology. We don't measure it technologically, Okafor explained. We feel it. Humanity has always been good at stories, at finding meaning in chaos. When meaning itself started to fail, we noticed. And our calculations showed the source. She gestured at the viewport, toward the structure they were all protecting, is in here. Whatever you're guarding, it's either causing the collapse or it's the key to stopping it. Zelenoth made a decision that would have been unthinkable moments before. Vormak, grant her passage to the inner core. Guardian Prime. Multiple voices protested simultaneously. The treaty was made 50 million years ago to protect the universe from what the predecessors left behind, Zelenoth interrupted. But what if we've been protecting the wrong thing? What if we've been keeping something imprisoned that was meant to serve a purpose? He focused his full attention on the human. Dr. Okafor, the predecessors were the first civilization to achieve true omnipotence. They transcended physical reality entirely. Before they left this plane of existence, they built something. A device, a weapon, a tool. We've never understood its purpose. It exists in a quantum superposition of all possible functions until observed and used. We've guarded it because we feared what might happen if it fell into the wrong hands. But maybe, Okafor said softly, it's been waiting for the right story. For someone to need it badly enough, to be worthy enough, to ask the right question. This is insane, Vormak muttered. Probably, Zelenoth admitted. But she's right about one thing, the universe does love a good story. And a primitive human in a barely functional ship, somehow breaching impossible defenses to save all sentient life? He manifested something close to a smile. That's the kind of story the universe pays attention to. The barriers fell away. The protagonist moved forward, deeper into the forbidden zone, toward a structure that hadn't been approached in 50 million years. As it did, every Guardian felt something they hadn't experienced in eons: anticipation. Dr. Amara Okafor, representative of a species barely old enough to have written language, was about to meet the legacy of beings who had become gods. And somehow, impossibly, it felt exactly right. Guardian Prime, Okafor said as her ship neared the structure, a sphere of impossible geometry that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the three-dimensional I could process. When this is over, assuming we all survive, humanity would like to apply for membership in the Galactic Council. If you can activate the predecessor device and stop the narrative collapse, Zelenoth replied, humanity won't need to apply. You'll have earned a permanent seat at the table. Though I suspect you somehow knew that already. Okafor's laugh was bright and unafraid. We did write a pretty good story, didn't we? As the protagonist touched the surface of the impossible sphere, and reality itself seemed to hold its breath, Zelenoth reflected on the profound truth the humans had discovered. The universe might operate on physical laws, but it lived for the moments when those laws served a greater narrative. And humanity, it seemed, had learned to write those narratives themselves. The Forbidden Zone's secrets were about to be revealed, not through force or ancient wisdom, but because a young species had understood something the oldest beings in the galaxy had forgotten. Sometimes, the best way to solve an impossible problem is to make it part of a really good story.